Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen, and joining me every day with his Buffalo hat on, I guess, and his BetSperts sweatshirt, which we realized early on is a little tough for the show here, folks, because it's a green screen. So there's a B over there. It just is trying to be the background Andy's using. How are you, Andy?
I'm pretty. If I do this, you can see the bet word. Yeah, I got my swag on today. This is actually a very nice sweatshirt. This is Under Armour. So
I know it's Under Armour. That's a
shout out to the higher ups up there at corporate over at the corporate offices of BetSperts for getting me set up. And with I think it's an option too. If you do sign up for the WynnBet promo and you want the sweatshirt, there is a deep dive or BetSperts sweatshirt. Hell, you sign up a couple people, you can get both. And get warm because it's cold as hell here. It's sweatshirt season for me, and let's get into it. We have a lot of picks today. I've been worried the last couple days about we don't have Monday Night Football, we don't have Thursday Night Football. What are we gonna fill in? All of a sudden, tennis. We got golf starting this week. Hockey's right around the corner. Lots of stuff. So I'm jacked.
We love it.
And yeah, right into it with basketball. Again, I bet one. I got Campbell at 5. It's down to 4. I think you could probably find a 4. I don't know if I'd go a whole lot lower than that. I can double check that right now. But the Campbell's, I'm going against the back-to-back trend, which everybody can't stop talking about. Even I've brought it up, but they do play the exact same team again. It's a struggle because they covered yesterday, so it's one of those where I'm playing with fire here, betting against the back-to-back zigzag trend or what have you, but my numbers make this what they make it. I can't get this to 4, so I'm fine playing Campbell here. I played him at 5. I'm fine down to 4. This is a struggle all year for them on the glass. They can't get an offensive rebound. They're not terribly big. I think that's probably a big issue there. They're a smaller lineup in general, but this is another team they're facing where that's not going to be as big of an issue as they also struggle in rebounding and offensive rebounding in general. So yes, Camels. I was a really big fan of Chris Clemens when he was there. He was my jam. I hope he's got an ACL injury right now, I think so. Hopefully he's recovering nicely. And let's go. This one's later on today. This is actually like a 2:00 game. So this one starts in like 3.5 hours.
Yeah, love that. And again, make sure you follow us on the BetSperts app so you can get all that stuff from Andy right away. He's at Andy, and then you can find me at Alex Christensen with no space there. But I like that. That's a pretty solid play.
Oh, the pros. I don't do the pros. That's more your jam. What do you got tonight? More association.
Indeed. A couple plays tonight. I'll start with the Chicago Bulls here, plus 9.5. They are playing the Portland Trailblazers. To start, this is a really tough schedule spot for Portland. They're not coming off a back-to-back here, but as I look at their schedule, they haven't had more than one night off between games since Christmas. And they're also coming off a 4-game road trip. This will be their first game at home. I think that, they've been away for over a week now at this point. Again, their bodies have had a night between each game. So when you start to build that up over and over, I think it's just a really tough spot for them. And we've seen teams coming off long road trips in their first game at home struggle a little bit. Not sure exactly why that happens, but you can see it as you start to look at some of the numbers for those of you that take the time to do some of that fatigue homework. So I like the Bulls here, plus 9.5. I think they have a chance to keep this game close. They've been playing really well, pretty solid rest spot for them. Again, they come in. This will be the first game on their road trip. Not sure that that's really a big impact there. I'm not too worried about them. They've played some very nice games, won 3 of their last 4. As I start to look at some of the numbers here and my model, I make this much closer. I think it should be like a 6, almost maybe 7 point at worst I can get it out to, but not as far as 9.5. So I actually grabbed this at 10. I like it at 9.5, all the way down to 9. I think this is a solid dog play here. And then the other play I have
money coming in on that. There is a book or two that has tickled down to 9. So I want to hop on that if you do believe in the Bulls tonight.
Yeah, again, I like that down to 9. I wouldn't play it down to 8.5. Maybe if you end up like with an 8.5 at even money or something like that, that might be okay. But if it's 8.5 standard juice, just pass and hope it bounces back to 9. But I think it's a nice spot for the Bulls here. Second play I have is a total. We're going to look to go under in the Utah-Brooklyn game. Again, got a little better number myself on this last night, right around 228. I think 228.5 is what we got it at. But 227 still around here, and I like this under. No Kevin Durant for COVID tracing here for a little while. There's the Brooklyn Nets also missing Spencer Dinwiddie. So that's two pretty solid offensive pieces for them. Dinwiddie's not a guy that you think of filling up the stat sheet and scoring a lot of points, but he really enables a lot of other players. And with Durant off the floor, teams are now going to be able to focus on Kyrie Irving and maybe Karis LeVert a little bit more. I think you'll see Brooklyn struggle to score some points and maybe have to slow things down a little bit. Utah is a team that is always happy to play at a slow pace and kind of grind out their games here. I make this total about 223 myself. So 227 is just about the line. I don't mind like a 226.5. Probably wouldn't play 226. So like the under here as well as Chicago plus 9.5. What do you think of both of those, Andy?
Yeah, that one's ripping too. And that's another one where I just don't understand anything ever about coronavirus and how they decide to do anything, because the Durant stuff makes no sense. And I mean, that's a conversation for a different day, I guess. But he had it. He's tested positive to having the antibodies that would prevent you from getting it again. He's had negative tests, but they still, I mean, the rules are the rules, and I'm fine as long as they're consistent through this. But it's got to be very frustrating for Brooklyn and Kevin Durant in general, who spent the better part of 500 days not getting to play basketball because of injuries and now having to sit out again. So yeah, I like that. And the number is ticking down.
Yeah, I think the rules are based in probably some of the worst case scenarios. I have a particularly cautious, if you will say, soon-to-be mother-in-law that has let me know that if you interact with someone with COVID, it takes up to 5 to 7 days for the virus actually to, quote, take hold and be able to trigger a positive test. And at the same time, there's been plenty of people with antibodies have gotten it again. I'm not a doctor or anything, and neither is she. But knowing that the NBA has always been more cautious, I think that's kind of what they were leaning towards. And I actually give them a lot of credit. As dumb as you think the rules are, this is Kevin Durant. This is a serious player, and they looked at it and went, sorry. This is what we agreed to before the season. This is what we're going to do. So as dumb as the rules might look to you, credit honestly to them, frankly, for implementing them on such an important player.
And I guess that's where I stand on this, as far as that's where my consistency comment kind of really rings true. Is this isn't the third string power forward on a bad team. This is a legitimate star in the league. If they're going to treat one like this, they treat everybody like this. So I dig that, I guess. I have an NFL play, but we did have a quick question in the chat as we move on to football. The Stefanski thing. Yeah, that's rough. Truthfully, my actual take on this is that they some other people had this take. Like, the Cleveland outbreak has never stopped. They've just continued to play games. Like, Cleveland has people on COVID list for the last 3 weeks. Like, they've never gotten it under control there. They can say what they want about it's not in the facility, but they've shut down the facility, and this could be a big deal. This is off the board at a lot of places. If you feel strongly about this and you can find a number, you can probably get a 4.5, 5 on Pittsburgh if you really want to go down that road. But Stefanski is not only the head coach, he calls the plays. Like, that's a really big deal. The acting head coach right now is the special teams guy. So this could get ugly. I hate that this is happening in the playoffs. I hate this is happening to a team that's, they hadn't been to the playoffs in so long and finally had some measure of success. So it does suck, but it just goes to show, like, if you don't take a timeout, like, I think the NFL was so excited about getting all the games in on time that they just kind of screwed this up. So RIP Cleveland, maybe. We'll see how that goes. But I played in a different game. This is something I took an early position on. I thought it'd move. It's kind of bounced back and forth. But I'm in on Buffalo. I'm finally just going to lay some chalk here. Real quick, I mean, not a lot to say. Indy's defense is good, but it's not great. It's really middle of the pack. If you go yards per play, they're kind of in that, there's a huge gap, or not a huge gap. There's a huge chunk of teams that are just all middle of the pack, yards per play defense, and they have gotten carved up through the air. It might be a little tougher to run on a team like this. They've only given up a couple bad rushing days, and actually both times it was to Derrick Henry. But the last 4 games, they've given up like 340 yards through the air. And, one of those was like Mike Glennon. I think maybe I took that one out. But the last 4 competitive games, this is an offense that is. I I hate laying points on this against a decent team, against a decent defense, but it is going to be at home. They are going to have fans. It is going to be Phillip Rivers on the road in the cold. The defense for Buffalo is not good, but Indy's, I do believe, is a little overrated, and Buffalo's offense will likely get things done here. We've gotten over the Josh Allen breaking his debutante, a playoff performance last year. So this is really the only real NFL position I've taken so far for the playoffs, which is wild. Last year, I bet all four wild. I had a position in all four, so maybe later in the week, and we'll get deeper into this on the deep dive Wednesday as we have a special guest on Wednesday. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'll be great. I look forward to our guest on Wednesday.
That's all we have: basketball and football, right? Those are the sports this time of year.
That's it. But I guess we have 9-10 minutes left. There's this other little sport. It also involves a bouncing ball and a net, but you have to have these two racket things and you hit it back and forth and stuff. I think it's called tennis. True. Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah, no, it is tennis. Just like every other sport, shit's wild. Like the scheduling is all goofy. Normally, anyone who follows tennis knows there's a bunch of tournaments down under that lead up to the Australian Open. Everything has got, it's been flipped on its head. We have a tournament in Florida. We have a tournament in the Middle East. I think that's what you're going to touch on. You're more of a women's tennis. You take it away. Talk to me about what's going on in the Emirates. Is it United Arab Emirates?
Yeah, Abu Dhabi is where the women are playing this week, and we love tennis. It's one of the ultimate betting sports. If you're not into it, if you're someone that maybe just likes to bet on sports and is looking for a sport that's on about 11 months out of the year, when it gets really rolling, it's like almost 24 hours a day. There's some sort of tennis match that's on. You have the men playing in the ATP, the women in the WTA. They're often in different parts of the world, so you get a lot of stuff going on. We like it because, again, it's every day. It's a sport where it's an individual playing against individuals, so it ends up being a little more simple handicap. Now, it does take some more time to learn the players, learn what they're good at, what they're bad at and stuff. But, I mean, Andy, I know that you handicap tennis just a little bit, but what do you like about it? What sticks out to you about the appeal of tennis, as a sports bettor?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed on that. Not only is it 11 months out of the year, it's another reason I enjoy betting on golf, and we'll get to some of that later this week and as we go through the spring. But it is nice that it's just such a long, extended season. And if you really do just need an itch, like I hate to be like, hey, just DJ and play some bets just because you have a gambling problem. But if you really want action, like tennis is constantly on. Sometimes they'll have a tournament in like the fall. I'm trying to think of can we say Far East? Is that still a thing? Yeah,
I don't know if it's so far. I think it's still the Middle East.
No. I'm talking about like when they have a tournament like Shanghai. Or
Sorry. Yeah.
Let's say Australasia. So they'll have a tournament like Australia, Hobart, or New Zealand, anywhere in Asia. They'll have a tournament in like Europe or the Middle East, and then there'll also be tournaments in North or South America. And when you have that, there's tennis on 24 hours a day, like legitimate high level tennis on 24 hours a day. So, I mean, you can really stretch out, you make 3 or 4 bets and they might be at all hours of the day. It's a lot of fun. So tennis is a good sport to bet. And it's easy to get into because there's so many derivative markets. If you really want to dig down into some niche stuff, it's fun there.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of ways to attack it, and it's a fun sport to start with because the scoring system is not, open like, say, a basketball game where you can have an endless amount of points. It ends up being kind of a little simpler. But essentially what you have every week is there's a tournament somewhere in the world, like we mentioned. It could be all over the place. And what you have is a bracket, much like the March Madness bracket. You have the seed at the top. You've got the second seed at the bottom and all the players kind of in between. And it's single elimination. Again, just like March Madness, everybody plays each other, and whoever wins all their matches at the end is the champion. So what you start with every week is this bracket, and that's particularly fun too. I mean, the bracket is a fun style of breaking down things. It's fun to go through and pick out tournament outrights and stuff. So let's start there with a couple of outrights this week. Again, we've got the women. They're in Dubai. We'll start with my first outright pick here, Garbiñe Muguruza. She is a Spaniard, had a very solid season last year despite all the kind of the COVID mess. Looks like she's playing a lot of tennis lately and seems to be in pretty good form. One of the nice things about tennis this year is you don't have to actually know as much as you did in previous years because everyone is kind of coming in with a fresh slate. Looks like all the travel stuff is normal. You don't have to worry about fatigue. It seems like everyone's been playing a little bit of tennis. Things are maybe a little simpler from that aspect this year. And I expect her to come out and have a nice start to the season, play really well here. As I start to look at her draw, again, as you start to look at the bracket, what you're trying to do is find, women that maybe have more expensive prices with tougher draws and women with kind of better prices that have easier draws. So at 15-1, her first couple matches here look very easy to me. Basically, she's got a tester coming against Sophia Kenin. Sophia Kenin, one of the best players in the world at this point, won a Grand Slam last year, finished second at the French Open, another Grand Slam. And I think the market's given her a lot of respect here. But I think Muguruza actually should be a favor in that match. And so we're getting some value on her at 15-1 to win the tournament. I think she has a great chance to win her quarter, and there's probably a favorite the next two matches. So we're going to take some Garbina Muguruza 15-1. Is that a name you remember, Andy?
Yeah, she's got a couple majors. She's won 2 slams. I'm pretty sure she won Wimbledon. I know she's won the French.
Yes.
I think she's been
she's
probably at least to one hardcourt final, you got to say the Z like Ibiza. Like it's a soft C. Muguruza. No, I like her a lot. Adorable dimples. I like a long shot. This is another fun thing with tennis too, is you can bet these outrights and sweat out. And then you get to sweat out an outright for multiple matches. Sometimes there's hedging opportunities if you're into that. So I do like an outright.
Yeah, we'll get into those and the hedging and stuff. And this next selection I have is another even bigger price here, a Russian by the name of Ekaterina Alexandrova. She is a player that I think is going to have a really strong season. She's an up-and-comer on the tour to me. She does just about everything well. She had some physical issues about a year ago, but seems to have righted that ship. So as long as she's healthy, I think that she has a really great chance to win some of these tournaments. And I think it's not going to be long that we get opportunities to bet her at 50-1 and things like this. So going to grab her at 50-1. Again, as I look at her draw, she has a chance to advance through her quarter. And at that price, I mean, we can actually probably buy out. If she makes the quarterfinals at 50-1, we probably have a chance to start to buy out some of our risk and have kind of, a risk-free bet going the rest of the way. So 2 outrights there for me. And I see another question here, Andy. We talked about this
I wanted the
earlier.
Mike Tyson question, actually. That was funny. Mike Tyson pronouncing Muguruza. Yeah, I'm working on the Watto. I'm trying to get him to do more streaming on his own because he can talk tennis all day.
We'll try to get him on here for sure, and we'll definitely have a couple other people to talk tennis. You guys might remember Spread Estero came on to talk basketball. I talk tennis with him all the time, so we'll certainly have him on there. Those are 2 outright selections, and then I do have some individual matches. There will be tennis played based on where you live. It's probably tonight, maybe early tomorrow morning where you are. So this is kind of fun if you're up late, or if you're somebody that likes to place a wager and wake up and see how you did. That's even more fun.
It's like a KBO, baby.
That's right. We'll start with another name that's fun to pronounce. Wang Jiang. You're actually supposed to say it the other way, but they always list her as Jiang Wang. But Wang Jiang, a Chinese player who I think is actually wrongly the underdog here. She is just trying to pull up some of her numbers here. But somebody, again, that I look at had a really nice season last year. She is playing Daria Kasatkina, a player that I think gets a little more name recognition and someone who doesn't quite have the numbers to back up some of her prices here. Kasatkina has beaten her a handful of times. One of the things you have in tennis is some of these players play each other 4 and 5 times over their career, but you have to be careful because sometimes they're a long time ago. When I look at all these head-to-heads, it was back in 2018, 2-3 years ago, before Wang Jiang was really the player she is now. So happy to take the China woman there, plus 135. That's moving a little bit. I'd play that down to like plus 120, maybe even plus 115. But I think plus 120 or better is a nice play there. Another underdog.
Look at just like basic head-to-head stats and stuff in Sortable. I just put something in the chat. Tennis Abstract. I mean, as far as sports go, tennis has one of the biggest free databases of past results. It's pretty widely searchable and sortable. So I put that in there.
Yeah, Tennis Abstract is great. If Jeff Sackman happens to hear this, or anybody knows Jeff Sackman, let us know. We say thank you. It's absolutely incredible that site is up and running. It's every tennis match, I think, just about ever. And you can filter it a whole bunch of interesting ways. So that's kind of how you go about it. And we'll get into some of that, more of that talk as we go through. The next one I have is just another money line in here. Paula Badosa, a Spaniard here. One of the interesting things about tennis is certain countries get these reputations for having certain kind of players, and Spanish players are known for being really great clay players. They have a ton of clay courts in Spain because Rafael Nadal is the greatest clay player of all time and basically owns the French Open. They're just going to change it from Roland Garros to Rafael Laros Nadal something or whatever. They always think of Spanish players as being better on clay versus hard court. One of the big things you have in tennis is 3 different surfaces: clay, which is very soft and slow; hard court, which is kind of in the middle; and then you have grass, which is very fast. And the slower courts and that speed sort of works. And again, we'll talk more about that. But I think we have some undervalue here for Miss Badosa. She's playing against a woman, Anastasia Sevastova, another player who's more popular. And again, I don't think has the numbers to back up necessarily her name recognition. So happy to take 2 underdogs there. Any thoughts, Andy, before I give out one more play here and kind of explain how totals work?
No, I trust you on this. I don't know any of these WTA. I know the big name WTA players. I mostly stick to the men. You can clip that.
That's right. Next up, we have a total. So the last 2 were just bets to win the match. And one of the things you can bet, just like any other sports, they have a spread and a total. We'll get to spreads another day. Today I have a total. And this is as simple as taking, all the games that you have in a match. Say, for example, the final score of a match is 6-4, 6-4. 6 plus 4 is 10. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. So if you had over 19 and a half games, you won. If you had over 20 and a half games, you lost. In this particular case, we have 2 women, Ons Jabeur and Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova. Tennis, if anything, is just full of lots of fun names to say. And Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova is one of my favorite. It just has this nice rhythm to it. These are 2 very crafty players. If you haven't really watched a lot of tennis and happen to be up and have access to Tennis Channel, and this is on, watch a little bit of this. You're going to see 2 players that attack the game creatively, that do a lot of interesting stuff. It's not just going to be 2 people blasting the ball back and forth at each other, trying to see who can run around the fastest. You'll get to see some nice creative tennis here. And as a result, I think we're going to see a lot of games. I'm expecting this to be at least kind of like a 7-5, 6-3 scenario. So we get 21, or we'll get lucky enough and have 3 sets and not have to worry about it at all. So a little bit of tennis here, Andy. We finally get into it on the show. I know the people are excited.
I'm excited. I've already seen some bad beats. Somebody in our tennis chat bet a guy who got down 5-0 and then retired. So he was able to get his money back, which was nice because he didn't lose his set. So
Let's ask Kelly about retirements. Have him explain
retirements or something. So yeah, always check the rules with your book. As with any sport, tennis does have a lot of different rules from book to book. Make sure you know what you're getting into before you get too involved in some of those if you are worried about retirements. But yeah, tennis, golf, and everything. So quick recap. Campbell, +4. Hopefully you can still get that. I know these move kind of quick sometimes, so definitely make sure to follow me on BetSperts to get the best of the number if you do want to follow some of the CBB in a season that's been a little up and down for me. Beefalo, the Bills, Josh Allen. As much as shit talk I did about him a couple years ago, I'm bought in. He's fixed his deficiencies, and his passing offense is working right now. Utah, Brooklyn, you had the under 227 down to like 226. You said you'd play Chicago down to 9. I think there's still some 9.5s available. Outrights, Muguruza and Alexandrova. That was pretty good. 50-1 and 15-1. And then, of course, some tennis matches. I'm not even going to try. Just
Wang Xiang,
+135. Paula Badoza, +147. And these other 2 women.
Jabeur Pavlyuchenkova.
Pavlyuchenko over 20.5 games. So
don't worry, I won't make you do a spelling bee on the Net Worth Pod. We have a yearly spelling bee where I make my 2 buddies, Spread and Jorge, try to spell these ridiculous names. Spread is terrible at it. Jorge is actually very, very good at it. There's a girl, Grammatica Polo. It's literally like a 22-letter name or something that he just crushes every single time.
I just watched the YouTube video about the ovas. That's how I learned most of this pronunciation. So I didn't even pronounce pronunciation right. I butchered that. So it's Monday part 2, guys. But a lot of plays today. Had a lot of fun. Thanks for coming in. And then also if you again want to support everything we do over here, and you live in New Jersey or Colorado or can get there, you get a $500 risk-free bet for your first bet over at WynnBet. And if you send me some proof that you placed a bet in the DMs, I'll get you a sweatshirt. Free sweatshirt. Free sweatshirts. We're just handing them out. So until tomorrow, we'll check you.